Very good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of Casual Conversations During Lockdown. And with me this evening is the current South African show jumping champion for the second time. It's Kelly O'Connor. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Aidan. How are you doing?
I'm good. How's lockdown? We're on day number 22. We should have been released, but it goes on for another 2 weeks. How's lockdown been for you?
It's been interesting. The first week I struggled with a lot. I had to stop drinking red wine for my boyfriend's safety and my mental. But I think now we just doing as much as we can during lockdown, being as productive as we can with our horses.
Has much changed in terms of the horses and riding and routines and how much you're doing with them?
I'm not doing as much high intensity work with the horses, especially Hira. She going into lockdown, she was just recovering from a virus. So that first week or two was quite nice, just taking it easy, going around the track with her. So she's in very light fitness work. And then with the couple of other horses I have, it's been great. They're new partnerships. So it's really been nice getting that partnership starting to establish a bit of a connection with them. So it's been really beneficial in that way for me.
And how big is your operation? How many horses do you have on the property? Do you have clients or you're a livery yard? If so, what are you doing with the clients' horses?
So we have at the moment, we have 19 horses in the yard. Luckily, most of them are my own competition horses. And then I've got my sister's 2 competition horses, which my cousin's keeping in work for her. I've got 3 livery horses for clients, or 3 clients with livery horses. I'm keeping those in work for them, whether it's a walker or lunging, or I pop on them every now and again. So it's not a huge setup, but it's nice. It keeps us busy during the day.
So how many are you throwing your leg over every day?
So about 8. We've got 8. And then, well, I've got 8 and Johnny's got 2. And then one's a 3-year-old. So I'll only ride that one every second day. And then my ones, I'll do track work 3 times a week. And then a very light lunge once a week. And then I'll jump on them, do a nice little gymnastic. Depending on how well they go the first day, we'll either do it once or twice in the week.
And what are your thoughts about the current scenario, shows, lack thereof? When are we going to get out? When is it all going to get up and running again? Have you chatted to anybody? I mean, Govert's the brother-in-law. He must have his finger on the pulse with his connections. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, I think it's been, especially the first week where it was such unknown territory, and being a very goal-orientated person, it was hard going in, not knowing what we were going into. We don't have any focus in the future. So that was very, very difficult. And it still is very difficult, because what are we working towards? I've chatted lightly with various people, and the feelings out there, very hopeful. Perhaps maybe August time we can start seeing and looking at a little bit of shows up and running, if everything goes well. But I mean, we just don't know at this point, I think, what the future holds for us.
So the purpose of these conversations is that equestrian enthusiasts, fans can get to know the top riders, get into their brains, and take away from that what they will. So let's get to know Kelly O'Connor. Tell us about yourself. Let's go right back to your childhood. You're from an equestrian family. Your mom was a racehorse trainer. Talk a little bit about your mom and her side from horses.
Yeah, so my mom, she was a racehorse trainer, and I think, I may stand to be corrected, but she was the first female trainer. And so we grew up with horses on the property, and we always had access to the horses, which was amazing. And my mom's a very competitive lady, so she gave that to us growing up. We had to sort of get some results. We had to do the best we could, which was great. It was really, really good. Yeah, we always had to work really hard with our training. We had really top instructors throughout. So we were very fortunate with our upbringing with my mom. She really, I think, put us in the right place to become the best possible horseman we could be. So that was very fortunate. And yeah, she still has horses. Whenever I struggle with something in the yard, the first person I phone is my mother. She's an incredible horsewoman. She's seen most of it or has knowledge about other people that have seen sort of any scenario. So yeah, I'm very fortunate with my mother being an incredible horsewoman. And then my dad, he was in the racing industry with the betting. So he also had a little bit of knowledge with the horses. And he would often come over and attempt to give us a lesson or two, which was quite interesting. But yeah, it was a very fortunate upbringing with a very nice family in the horse riding community.
And you're one of 4 sisters, and you are the youngest. Are they all riders? Were you all involved? Are you all involved? I know at least 2 are.
Yeah, so we 4 sisters. My oldest sister, Dominique, her maiden name is McMurtry. So her father was an incredible jockey himself, John McMurtry. So she has a horse riding background as well. And as far as I know, she competed in one training show. She won her rosette, and she was very clever. She still is the cleverest out of all of us. And then she said, I got what I needed, and she stopped riding. So she's not involved anymore, but she has a daughter, and her daughter is very keen on the horses. So she's getting involved through her daughter now. And then my second eldest sister, Aisling Triggle, she's extremely involved. She's competed at 150 level. Yeah, she's very, very involved with the horses. It's great. We always see each other at shows, and it's nice to have family in the community. And then now recently, my second youngest or third eldest sister has joined us. She stables here with me, and she's just gotten back into the riding. When she was a junior, she was a very good event rider, show jumper. She did all the pony teams, all of that. So she's very, very capable. And I'm pretty sure we'll see her up in the opens fairly soon as well.
And now, are you born and bred Joburg girl? Did you grow up in Joburg? Where'd you go to school?
I'm actually all over the place. I was born in Alberton Hospital. And
we're not going to hold that against you.
Yeah, listen, the Neils are from the south, so that's a good sign, isn't it? But yeah, and then I actually did all my schooling in Pretoria. So officially, I would think I'd refer to myself as a Pretoria girl, if anything. Yeah.
Were you at Pretoria Girls?
No, we were at CBC, so Christian Brothers College, and then I finished up in Woodhill College, in Pretoria East. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me, with your racing background, with your mom being a trainer, you never wanted to go into racing?
I did, definitely. When I was tiny, or when I was younger, I was dead keen on becoming a jockey. And especially because I'm short, it was definitely an option. But then as I grew into the show jumping and started getting the results, it just fizzled out completely, and show jumping became everything, my main focus.
Did you spend much time with your mom in the racing yard? Did you ride much work? I think she was based at Randkiesfontein, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so my mom was based in Rankies, and when we were little kids, we always used to be there. We grew up there mainly playing in the rolling pits and that sort of thing. We were there a lot. Then when I became a bit of like a young teenager, then my mom was training from home in Pretoria, and she gave up the Randkiesfontein barn, just I think to be a little bit more at home with all the kids. You know, running around all our extra activities and shows and what have you. But yeah, we were definitely involved with the horses. Not so much the work riding, luckily, but because we've been out to the track and it's quite intense. So I take my hat off to those work riders because they're very, very brave.
You should have given it a spin. It's good fun.
No, I've got enough to hold on to on this side with these naughty buggers.
So, growing up, your children's career successful? Were you a top children rider as well?
Yes, I was. Sorry, my cat, Eric.
That's right.
Yeah, so children, we were very involved. We did equitation, showing. Oh my god, I got cat bites. Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
So we got a new cat called Mr. Bunny, and Eric's not too happy with him moving in. Being a kid riding, we did a lot, venting, all of that. I won the Pony SA Champs with a beautiful pony called Rockefeller.
For eventing?
No, for show jumping.
Okay.
In 2013, I think 2003, sorry. Yeah, for show jumping. And we did the teams. I qualified with the FEI Children's Series to go to Spruce Meadows. So I competed in Spruce Meadows with children's. And then it took us into juniors. I did a lot with the junior teams, Gauteng teams. We won a couple of golds. And equitation, I did the Philip Smith. My instructor, Claire Webb, she was very keen on the Philip Smith. So that was an extremely incredible experience. I did it on a horse called Alzu Lamborghini, and we won SA Junior Champs for equitation, and then we went on to win the Philip Smith Memorial trophy. So yeah, I was very competitive as a pony rider and a junior.
And in terms of show jumping as a junior, apart from the equitation, was Lamborghini also your ride in the show jumping classes?
No, Lamborghini was a little bit of a strange horse. With the sense like he couldn't handle pressure too much, which is weird that he enjoyed the equitation field. So we sort of jumped like the JB section with him. And then my main horse was Highlander, a thoroughbred that I went up on. I also had numerous thoroughbreds.
Is that the same Highlander that Ronnie Healy had, the Bay?
Yeah. So we did like a double package. We bought Highlander and Lamborghini together.
Okay.
And Highlander was my main horse, and he was phenomenal. And then Lamborghini was my second horse. And then I produced a thoroughbred up from the track because my mom got lots of thoroughbreds off the track. So I had one of those that came up to JA. And then Highlander had an injury, so he was retired. And then we ended up buying 2 amazing warm bloods through Domini. I just changed over and started training with Domini back in the day. And it was actually 2 imported horses. They were phenomenal. One was called Doc Holiday, and then the other one was called Butterfly High. And those 2 I eventually took over to Europe with me when I moved. But campaigning them here, Doc Holiday, we went and jumped the Derby, and we finished 3rd. And we jumped in SA Champs. I think he won that Friday Grand Prix class, and he was incredible, that horse.
Wow. And your trainers as a child rider and as a junior, was Claire Webb your coach throughout those years?
So Claire Webb was our most consistent coach. She was always there throughout. And then Chad Cunningham along with Ian, they were very influential from our children and pony rider days. Chad went over with me to Spruce Meadows. He was incredibly influenced my riding with his flat work background. And then Domini was amazing. I moved on to him when I was a bit older, and I did it like a year work riding for him where I learned a lot.
Okay, brilliant. You mentioned when you went overseas, you ride on an Irish passport. Tell us about some of your adventures overseas. How many times have you gone? To what extent? Where did you train? What did you learn?
So I moved over to Ireland it was at the end of 2017. I'm sorry, the time flies so quickly. It's 2007. So in 2007, when I was 17, and I based with Richard Bournes it was in Galway, and it was incredible. We went over to Florida for a month. I saw that like Florida circuit, Palm Beach circuit there, and then we went back to Ireland where I trained with Captain John Ledingham, who was the main coach for the Irish team. From there, he got
What was John like?
John was outstanding. He was really such a calm person, which was incredible. And the biggest thing from him that I took was his way to just deal with any situation, whether it was a good situation or a bad situation. He almost just treated it the same. Like he would never get above or overexcited or like depressed. Everything was calm. He was a phenomenal trainer.
Yeah. Was Kilbahar still around when you were there?
Who, sorry?
Kilbahar, his great horse, Kilbahar, John Ledingham. I think he won
know.
four derbies on the horse. Anyway. So you came back to South Africa. Did you? I heard you rode for the Irish junior team, or is that correct?
Yeah. So I did. I rode for the Irish junior team, and then as well as the Irish young rider team. And then I had a horse which was really good called Punch de Sohan, and we were selected for a Irish adult team to go to Drummond, Norway, funny enough. But my horse did a collateral ligament, and my second horse just wasn't at that level. He wasn't good enough to do the Nations Cup. So and then after that, I went into young horses, and Hira has been my next top horse since then.
We'll get on to Hira in a few moments. Why the decision to come back to South Africa if riding was the dream and Europe or the States is where you need to be? Why did you decide to come back, given that you are on a passport?
Yeah, so my father was killed in a shooting incident, and I spent 6 months still overseas after his death. But I think my frame of mind just wasn't there. It made me relook a lot of things. It's not a decision I regret at all. I think coming back home, touching base with my family again, growing as a person, it was the best decision for me at the time. And I mean, Europe's just a flight away.
Yeah.
So it's not going anywhere.
So when you came back, were you based? Because you didn't have the setup that you have now. So where were you? What horses did you have? You're now in the adult ranks. Tell us about that period before you got your own setup.
So when I came back, I selected my 3 horses to bring back with me. And while they're in quarantine, I ended up going to basically my brother, Anton Hook, and his equestrian facility, Cornerstone, which is just outside of Centurion. And I bought a little thoroughbred from him while I waited for my 3 to come out of quarantine. And he had a section of his stable yard, which he rented out to me. And that's where I started back up and running, was at his equestrian facility.
Wow. How is Anton related?
He's not. So he used to work for my mom when she was a trainer, and he used to babysit us all the time. And like little lead, he used to run around with us. And so we grew up with him, but he's not a blood relative.
Okay. And you said you selected your 3 horses to bring back with you. Which horses were those?
So I selected Gandhi van der Veldhof. He was by Nonstop. out of a Lombardo mare. And then he was a gelding. He would have landed in South Africa as a 7-year-old. And then my second one was a stallion by Cicero out of a Puccini mare. He would have landed as a 6-year-old. And the third one was Hira van der Bein, who was also out of Cicero and out of a Feo mare.
And they all landed up with you at Anton's. How long were you there? What levels were those horses at when you brought them in, and what did you produce? I mean, we know Hira, but tell us about those years in producing those horses and what you achieved.
So Gandhi I bought as a 4-year-old, and then Hira also a 4-year-old, and Husiro would have been 5 when I bought him. So I produced Gandhi up to 130 when he arrived in South Africa, and he was sold on as a 130 horse. Would have been at the end of his 7-year-old year, or going into 8. Yeah, so he only went up to 130s with me before sale, and then Husiro as well. I only had him for a short time before I imported him. I don't even think I did a show. I bought him and he went straight into quarantine. And then I produced him up until 130s, where he went on to the Neil family, and they competed him in 150s. And then Hira, she was jumping probably about a meter when I bought her as a 4-year-old. And yeah, now she's jumping the big stuff with me.
At what stage did you acquire the property where you're at now, and you developed the property? You bought the ground. I think there wasn't much there, was there?
Yeah, so I bought a vacant stand, and would have been 8 years ago now, or November 2013, the title deed went into my name, and the horses moved onto the property about a year later with just a fence and stables. We didn't have anything else. So as I sold a horse, I would put in the arena. And I remember the day we put in a toilet. That was a great day, because before we'd always have to pop across the road to the garage. So yeah, I just developed it slowly as I sold horses.
So as you were developing the property, Hira was developing as well. Tell us about Hira, some of the big wins. I mean, we know the Derby, 2 South African championships. I think there are 2 Bloberg Cups in there as well. Tell us about her idiosyncrasies, her character, and just this wonderful talent that she is.
So Hira has always been an incredible mare. She won the 130s as a 6-year-old, the 130 Easter Festival Championship, and then she had a little bit of a downward spiral of confidence, and then she picked up again and won the 135 championship at Maple Ridge, the President's Cup. She then went on to win the 140 Easter Festival Championship. And I said to my groom Samuel, okay, now we need a 145 before we can go 150. So when we went to Bloberg, it was kind of Domini. We were also going through like a bit of a weird year, and Domini was super supportive, and he said, right, Kelly, you're coming with us to Bloberg Cup, and off we went. And when she won the Bloberg Cup, I think that was almost one of the most emotional wins I ever had with her, because it was up against such amazing competition that the idea of winning was just like, you always believe you can, but until you do, it's just the best feeling, I think, to really have our first sort of big win. It was incredible. And then she went on to win SA Champs, which was also just insane. And then Derby for her first time around. I mean, the mare just doesn't stop giving, which is unusual because her character is extremely feisty and a bit like quite terrifying as well. Because you go in the evenings to give her like a carrot or a kiss or a pat, and she just wants to kill you, really. She's not interested in any sort of affection from me anyways. So for her to do these, yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Like, she just has which is insane because she gives so much every time she goes into that arena.
Yeah.
So she's an amazing mare.
Out of your big wins with her, the 2 SA Champs, the 2 Bloberg Cup, and the Derby, what do you rate as your favorite, as the highlight of those?
Wow, Flip. That's a really tough one. Each win has been so incredible. I mean, it's things you dream of winning. So I know Bloberg Cup, I did start crying when I won that. And now the second SA Champs, when we won that, was also extremely emotional. So I think the first SA Champs and Derby and that was more just shock. So you couldn't really believe that you'd won those sort of things. So it took a few days before it sunk in. Whereas Bloberg and the second SA Champs, it sunk in there and then. So it kind of hit you a little bit harder, maybe.
Growing up as a young girl, which were the big ones that you always wanted to win?
To be honest, I wanted to win everything. So, I mean, every competition you go into, you just want to win that. I suppose it's a bit greedy, but I mean, obviously the big ones, Derby, SA Champs, those are dreams. But every championship I go into, I really want to win that.
Yeah. Are you a nervous person at all? When I say nervous, do you get butterflies before big competitions, or are you over that?
No, I always get butterflies going in, but I try to use that energy to my advantage, because I feel if you've got those butterflies, it will make you react quicker. So if you're in a sticky situation or you need to turn faster and go faster, you need that little extra bit of adrenaline. So I think that's what the butterflies are. It's just adrenaline kicking in, and you try to use that.
Kelly, you went overseas for a crack. I think it started off as a crack at the World Equestrian Games, if I'm not mistaken. And then the idea was to relocate. You put your property on the market. Tell us about that journey going over. What was the idea, and what happened? You're back now. So it didn't pan out, or you had a change of heart. What was the story?
So it was a very last minute decision. South Africa was putting a team together to go to the World Equestrian Games, and it's a huge goal to go into that sort of competition. So yeah, it was big dreams, and I went over, we found a horse, and we thought, right, I had a deep conversation with Dom, and we kind of said it's either gonna work or it's not going to work. So it's a very high risk situation. And during this campaign, I had 2 incredible families approach me and say, right, there's this opportunity. We have a property. We want you to base there, or you can base there and run it, which was just, it blew me away. I don't think it was something I was prepared for at the time. With my focus being on the World Equestrian Games and I hadn't qualified, so I still needed to qualify. And then my horse and I, the partnership wasn't good, or was definitely not good enough to be jumping at the level we needed to be jumping. I put my property on the market because it's very difficult to run a top facility when you're not there. And at the time, there was the land claims, and they were stealing gate motors and all these sort of things. So just to try control the yard and be overseas, it was just, I think, too much. And then when the partnership didn't work with the horse, I'll never forget it, because we were in Norway and it was a disaster on the second day. So Dominique said, right, I'll see you in the training arena at this time. And I was there the next morning, and he was there, and we were working away. And eventually, after the session, we kind of both just sat there and said, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think this is sort of working. And we were both on the same page, which is amazing. And I think you need that partnership with training. And we just called it a day because, and we did say that we're not saying we won't try again, but for this time and the time frame and the partnership with the horse is not realistic.
Yeah.
So then I sold the horse. I made the decision not to stay in Europe. I needed to fix things on this side. The property is still on the market, and once it is sold, then my plan is hopefully if direct quarantine does open, I can still take Hira and do a bit of a stint in Europe, because I do think she is good enough and our partnership is good enough to just attempt doing a couple of big shows.
Yeah. Would the plan be to go over there permanently and relocate and stay there, or just to kind of scratch that itch, do what you need to do, and then come back to SA?
Yeah, I think you sort of have to scratch that itch a little bit. I love SA, it's my home. I've got amazing friends here. But if you want to ride in Europe, I think you have to give it time. So you can't go over there for a month or a week and expect to get good results. You can get nice results and have some good rounds under your belt. But I think if you really want to give it a shot, you have to commit a couple of months to it.
So let's now talk about a day in the life of Kelly O'Connor. You are a professional rider. I know the sisters, they run Top Bet. Are you also involved in the business, or are you primarily just riding? This is what you do.
Yeah. So I've got my three sisters. They're very much involved with Top Bet, and I run my yard and ride full time.
Okay. So tell us about a day in the life of Kelly O'Connor.
Are we talking before lockdown or during lockdown?
No, I'm talking about, I know you're just sitting around drinking wine. I know you tell me that you ride, 8 horses a day. I know the truth is somewhere in between there. No, I'm talking about pre-lockdown and hopefully post-lockdown when everything goes back to normal.
Okay, so normally I wake up at 6 and I open up for all my dogs, my cats, all the creatures. We now have chickens, and they wake me up at about 4:30 because the rooster is just the noisiest guy I've ever met. So I would wake up at 6, open up for all the animals. The guys feed at 7 with the horses. So after having a cup of coffee, I'll get on my first horse. I probably ride about 4 or 5 horses before lunchtime, which is 12 o'clock. I alternate a lot. Monday is normally a day of rest. So then Tuesday, the horses, the naughty ones, will have a lunge session, so they're ready for Wednesday. My not so naughty ones, I'll ride on the Wednesday, normally at lessons. I'll go to Darmini on a Wednesday. So Dom, he teaches in the morning from his first lessons at 8 till 12. So with my competition horses, I'll take up to 4 horses. We'll have an hour training session each. The ones that didn't go for a jump, I'll jump them at home. I normally build an exercise that they need. And then after a jumping session, we normally the next day take them around the track just to loosen up the stiff muscles. Any of the more hot horses will need another flat work session on a Friday, leading up to the shows normally on the Saturday and the Sunday. And then the chilled horses, they'll just go for a walk around the track to keep them nice and loose before the show. And then after the show, we follow the same routine. So each week we're very consistent with our work.
Yeah. So Tuesday is generally a lunge day or a get the fresh out day. Wednesday is your big hardcore jumping session. Thursday again, just a bit of R&R. Friday if they need some extra flat work, and then shows on the weekend, and that's pretty much the routine every week.
Yeah. And yes, we do a lot of raised pole with the work with the horses to just get their rideability. Because I'm quite a small lady rider, I can't physically tell the horses you have to do this. So I do a lot of flat work and pole work, getting them on my balance. So when we land, going left and right, they're really responsive, going forward, coming back. This sort of thing is really important in their training, especially in a new combination where you're wanting to jump bigger stuff. It's easy to jump the big jumps. It's in between the jumps that we need to really fix sometimes.
Are you a big gymnastic person? Apart from the Cavaletti work, are you big into gymnastics? Are you big into flat work? Where's your head at? What do your horses need to be able to do on the flat? Are you into the German training scale and the classics and the leg yielding and the shoulders in and the quarters in, all that, or you keep it simple? That's the best way.
I would like to say I'm German based, maybe a little bit more like Dutch based, I think, because their groundwork is very important, but the lateral work in half pass and shoulder in, it all has its place. But I think the most important thing is keeping it simple. If the horse is straight in its body, it can go forward and come back. You really won already. And normally, if the horse is a bit skew in the body, you start to have to put a little bit of shoulder in and hindquarters in to correct that sort of fault. So I like to try to keep it simple, but when you get a lot of horses in, it's not that easy because you kind of have to correct their straightness. And the way to correct that would be to train them a little bit more with the shoulder and the hindquarters and that kind of thing. But as long as they can go forward and come back, we're already winning.
Your core business, you run the yard, you have a few liveries, but is your core business made up of production of horses and selling, or do you teach a lot as well?
So it's changed throughout the years. When I first came back to South Africa, it was mainly selling of horses. We used to sell a lot of horses, price range varying from very cheap to very expensive. But over the years, and with the auctions picking up and being extremely interesting to everyone, I find that I've lost a lot of the dealing side and focusing more on the training. I've got incredible clients at the moment, which I train. So I'm putting a lot of effort into training, and I've got phenomenal sponsors. So with the Road to Flow clients and Capital Stud, I've got Lauren Morrison that I ride a horse for. So I've got really incredible owners at the moment. So now, which is quite nice, you can focus a bit more on the sport than the dealing side. You can build up a bigger partnership with each horse.
So in any given day, and I'm not talking now about lockdown, talk about under normal circumstances, how much of your day is spent teaching? Is it every day, and what times do you dedicate your mornings to the riding and then your afternoons to your clients?
So yeah, it varies depending on clients. So I've got a couple of riders here. The adult riders will go early morning. I've got two clients here that I'll train early morning, Tuesday, Friday. And then I've got a young client who has his horse based here. I'll train him Monday afternoon on the occasion. And then he comes from Pretoria. So it's very difficult. Even though I'm off on a Monday, I kind of give him that half an hour because they take a lot of time to drive from Pretoria. And then Tuesday afternoon. And then Wednesday, from hoppers 3 to about hoppers 5, 6 o'clock, I'll go to Road to Flow and train. And then again, Thursday morning, I ride one horse out and then again, training the clients. And then any naughty horses or last minute preps we need to do, I'll pop out Friday morning. So it does vary between, you kind of fill up any empty gap that you have.
When you're not riding, do you supplement your own fitness? Do you treat yourself as an athlete? And if so, what are you into to keep fit?
Yeah, definitely. Especially before Derby. I ended up buying a treadmill just because the day is quite full with all the riding and the teaching now. it's quite nice in the evenings. I can run on my treadmill for an hour and in the dark, and it's not a problem. Beginning of the year, I tore a ligament in my ankle and I broke a bone. So doing a lot of rehab on that, super important. So also a little bit of like weight training, just I don't know how to describe it. Not hectic stuff, but just stretching, weight training, the sort of calf raises, the resistant band, that kind of thing. Running took a dip at the beginning of the year because of my ankle, but now since lockdown, I'm strong enough to run again, which is great. So yeah, I do try to stay as fit as I can.
And apart from riding, any other interests? Are you into any other sports? Are you a movie goer? What's life outside of the horses?
So I've recently taken up golf, which I did. Yeah, I did start 4 years ago. I bought a set of clubs, but I didn't have any patience, so I kind of forgot about those. And I took it up again now. I dragged my sister and my cousin along and my auntie, and we hire a golf cart and off we go, play some golf. So I've been enjoying the golf a lot. But yeah, sports, I'm very sporty, sort of anything that involves sport. I kind of do, but at the moment it's mainly horse riding and golf.
Now, you did rattle off a few pedigrees earlier on, so you have a knowledge of pedigrees. Is breeding a passion of yours? You're involved with the Capital Stud as well, and I think your mom had a breeding operation in the Midlands until not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken. Is breeding something that you're into as well? Do you breed yourself?
Breeding I was very interested in breeding, but it is extremely difficult, and you can have the best pedigree and think you sort of know what you're doing, and you get this really odd little thing that comes out, or they stand on a nail when they're 4 years old. So I've kind of left that up to the professionals to do. We dabbled in breeding a bit, but now I'd rather go pick one that I know can jump straight away instead of giving our hand at breed. It's very emotional to breed, and you get extremely attached, even whether they're good or bad or any of that. So I think we're going to leave that up to the professionals.
Kelly, seeing as though we're probably only going to get back to the show circuit, if we're lucky, August, September, for people out there who are wanting to keep their horses ticking over, what advice to them? What kind of things can they be doing? I mean, obviously we can't go off the properties in hack. So what's a good idea to keep our horses' minds fresh and just keep them at fitness levels up without putting too much mileage on their legs?
Yeah, I think consistency. Do a little bit each day instead of doing a huge amount and then once off for every day. So instead of doing an hour session each day, do 20 minutes. Focus on what you think you need to be improving on, whether it's their rideability. Maybe some horses are a little bit better on the left rein than the right. Don't overdo the left. Just every day do the same bit to try achieve that goal of evening them out. Some horses, they can't do flying changes. Slowly work on the progress. Perhaps next week, after quite a lot of training over a raised pole, they can do a flying change the following week. I don't think jumping huge is the best idea for now, just safety reasons, and it will put a lot of pressure on the horse's legs. Unless you're trying to build confidence with that horse, every now and again, once a week, twice a week, build them up to a bigger jump. And then just a bit of light work with consistency, I think, with a bit of a focus. What do you want to achieve from their flat work that day?
Youngsters who have their heroes in the game, I'm sure there's many out there who look up to you. Advice for young up-and-coming equestrians who want to make this a career, secrets to success, lessons that you've learned along the way, maybe?
I think that the best advice that was passed on to me is just have a really good work ethic. I'm not saying overwork. Don't kill yourself with work because you might lose that little bit of spark that you need to make it. But just be really committed to what you want to do. Even when you're going through a bad day, kind of sit back, take a look at the bigger picture, refocus your goal, remind yourself what is your big goal, what are you working towards, and just take it each day as it comes. I think that's a really good bit of advice which I've taken from.
And when you were in that position, so you were a child rider, who were some of the South African riders that you looked up to, that you really admired, and then perhaps some of the international riders that you held in great regard?
Absolutely. When I was growing up, we had Marcus Enning and For Pleasure, which was just my all-time utmost favorite rider. South African riders, we were so privileged. We had a handful of them at the time. We had, I mean, to name a few, we had, okay, obviously my trainer, I'm biased. We had Dominique, we have Barry, we have Gail, Lorette. The horses they had at the time and still today were just so amazing to idolize and to watch. It was really a very fantastic time to grow up in that era with these idols to follow.
You mentioned sponsors earlier on. Who are your sponsors? What do your sponsorships entail? And how important is it for professional riders to have sponsors?
Sorry, there we go. It's a key part of being a rider, having backing from these companies in South Africa. And it also makes you feel honored that these companies, they don't mind putting their brand to your name. I've got incredible sponsors with Simon Byrne from Tack and Tog's Midfeeds with the Aeroplus saddle. He kindly sponsored Hira, the most beautiful Christian almond Aeroplus. I also am fortunate enough to have a sponsorship from Serengeti Sunglasses through Bronwyn Meredith. They sport sunglasses and social sunglasses. They're very high quality, and it really does help my eyes with the sun. I have pterygiums, so these are very beneficial to me. And then also I've recently signed a clothing contract with Espoir and Caroline. She's been very generous and clothing me with her beautiful South African brand. I got her Simon one on tonight. And it really is stunning to be kitted out with these incredible brands, and just having the support from the Christian community in South Africa also really makes you feel that you've got a good team behind you every time you go to a show.
It's been wonderful chatting to you. Before we go, just a few little off-the-cuff questions, and you've got to answer quickly so we get to know you a little bit more. Favorite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
Favorite band?
Oh, music, I'm terrible. I would say Outcasts.
Favorite song?
Hey Ya.
Nickname?
Petronelli.
Petronelli is your nickname?
Yeah, Kelly Petronelli.
Oh, okay. I see Ling always saying Lovebug. I thought you were going to say Lovebug is your nickname. Favorite color?
Blue.
Hira's stable name?
Champion.
Brilliant. Kelly, it's been wonderful. Before we say goodbye, lovely Espoir shirt that you're wearing. Would you mind standing up?
I do have pants on.
No, it's just the pajama pants you told me earlier that you're wearing. Oh, okay.
My Espoir tackies on, which are really comfy, I must say.
Well
but I
done.
did put pants on just in case.
They look very clean. No, you told me earlier you were in your PJs, so I thought I'd call you out on it, but just your sweats there.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful lockdown. We hope we all come out of it unscathed. We hope it's not too far in the future. And any last words for people out there that are not as privileged as you and I, that are at the stables? We have space. We can go for a walk. We can run our dogs. Anything that you can say just to help people keep sane in these tumultuous times?
I've seen those great sort of those like horse stick, those little stick horses. People doing
Hobby
competitions on
horses.
those. Yes, so I would recommend maybe getting hold of one of those and doing some competitions on that if they can.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Post them, post them. Hobby horse competitions around your house. Jump in the couch and the kitchen furniture. Post it online. Let us see.
Cool. Thanks, Aiden, and stay safe.
Thanks. Keep well. Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands.
Chat to you soon. Bye.
Bye.